Welcome, IT changemakers, to the DEX Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
Hello, changemakers. Welcome to the DEX Show. I'm Tom McGraw here with Tim Flower. Tim, how's it going?
Tom McGraw, it's going good. It's we were talking a little bit earlier. It's a little bit of a turmoil for me, moving my apartment, moving all over the place. But it's crunch time. But things are good. How about with you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. I'm deep in the construction, and this may have some relevancy to our topic of conversation today. I'm deep in the construction of a 1970s playlist, and I'm going. When I say playlist, I mean we're talking. It's going to be 30 hours long or something. I go hard on these playlists.
Wow.
I really delve and explore all the albums and bands I haven't listened to properly yet. I go over all the old favorites. So I'm well into it, Tim. You got anything you think I might have missed that should be there?
You know, we covered a little bit of this one. Where were we? We were out in London, right?
Yeah, we were chatting
favorite
music.
band, favorite singers, the Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin.
They're there. Don't worry. The Floyd, Zeppelin, taken care of.
Cool.
I've been kind of bit of Black Sabbath, bit of ZZ Top, some Curtis Mayfield. Just tons of. It's a great decade, man. It's a great decade. That's what I concluded.
All, just 70s though, huh?
Well, this playlist is just 70s. Yeah. But it's called it's the 70s. That's the whole theme. I did the 60s a year ago, and that's like 36 hours of bangers. You can just put it on for a couple of days, give or take, and you'll just be like, another great track. That's where. Anyway, I mention it because I feel there's a relevancy. See where I go with this, guys. All right, see where I go with this. Our guest today is Marvin Nussek. I promised him I might mess his name up. Did I mess your name up a bit there, Marvin? It wasn't great, was it?
I think that was pretty good, actually. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, man. I appreciate it. He is a strategist at Circle Finance Initiative, which is part of Circular Economy, if I understand that correctly. And we're going to be talking to Marvin today about the circular economy, which I feel like, when you think about culture, when you think about art, what we leave behind, be it in the 70s, the 60s, or even the 17th and 16th centuries, it all comes back into circulation, doesn't it? We don't just forget about it. We in a very different sense recycle it. We renew it for the modern times. That was my hinge there, gentlemen. If you were wondering how I was going to get from A to B there, that was the route.
I thought, Tom, you were going to say in the 70s, and I have evidence of it in my apartment here. We've got all this leftover vinyl.
There you go.
That's going to go somewhere, right? Instead of just doing digital music, you got all this vinyl that's going to be in landfill someday.
Well, hold on there, Tim. You're not going to put it in a landfill, are you?
No.
I can take it on board. You can mail it to me. I'll handle it.
I volunteer as well.
Right. There you go. We're going to split it between me and Marvin. Marvin, sorry. Welcome to the show, mate. It's lovely to have you on. How you doing? You good?
Yeah, pretty well, actually. Yeah, I actually love the bridge you tried to make there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very, very happy to be here. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, I did assume a degree of understanding of the audience of the whole concept of the circular economy, but maybe we can begin, Marvin, by you just breaking down the concept of the circular economy a little bit and the organization you work for, what the distinction is, what they are respectively, and how they obviously complement one another.
Yes, sure. So, the circular economy is indeed a concept, and we are actually called circle economy. So there's a slight difference there.
I see.
But the circular economy as itself, it's rather complex. So I guess the official definition would be something like a systemic approach to maintain circular flow of resources at their highest value or something. But what that actually means is take less stuff out of the ground and throw less stuff away. So cool. That's a core idea of the circular economy. So that means do not landfill your beautiful vinyls there, Tim, but actually
which is circles as well. Let's just mention that en route.
Now it's getting cheesy. So no, that's the idea. Keep that kind of stuff in circulation, in use. That's the core idea of the circular economy. And so what circular economy is, we are basically an NGO. foundation based in Amsterdam. 65 people of, I think, like 30 different nationalities. So a bunch of very diverse people. And I mean, we help businesses, we help cities, we help governments to become more circular. That's our core value.
Cool. And I suppose within that, then you have the Circle Finance Initiative. Is that your area of specific specialization?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I am part of the finance team indeed. So that's really about moving, more money, more capital towards the circular transition, you know. But I'm also actually, and I guess this is a bit more the link to the show as well. I'm our expert on electrical and electronic equipment, which is quite a big part of the circular economy. I mean, if you look around at your desk right now, you see a lot of electronic equipment flying around, I guess.
A little bit. A lot of it defunct, actually. If you saw my desk, it's like...
There we go.
This hasn't been used in a while. Excellent. Thanks for that introduction, Marvin. Very interesting. And I wondered, like, I thought of an interesting kind of way of approaching the wider concept of the circular economy. Would be to ask you, as somebody who obviously advocates for it, who is an activist in this area, to critique it. Like, if you were not necessarily like to tear it apart, of course, but if you were to look at it and think, okay, here's what's great about it, here's what we want to achieve, and here are the obvious challenges that come with it. Here are the obvious criticisms or issues that people often see in it. And we could just be interested to hear you do that to begin with.
Yeah, I think that's a good question to start with. The thing is, I mean, sustainability has become more central in general, and luckily in our daily lives, I would say. And to a large degree, it usually just focuses on carbon emissions, you know, like CO2 and greenhouse gas emissions and so on. And the circular economy in general takes a bit of a different approach, and that already kind of makes it a bit difficult to understand for a lot of people, because greenhouse gas emissions and CO2 you can very easily measure. You know, like there's, I don't know, you fly somewhere and you know exactly how many kilos or tons of CO2 you have emitted. But when you actually talk about resource use, that's much more complex. You know, if you just look at your phone, which you have, I don't know, in your pocket right now, you have really dozens or hundreds of different materials in there. Actually measuring them, where they're coming from, whether they are virgin resources, so actually extracted from the ground, or whether they're recycled resources, you know, just assessing that already is largely complex. And then we're just talking about one single product. So to measure and to understand the state of circularity, so how many recycled resources been used in the production of a certain product, for example, is largely complex. So that's why I think, and that's the biggest criticism maybe for the circular economy, it's not as well known so far.
Well,
he's convinced me, Tim. I think to get him
it's an interesting concept, you know, and just kind of thinking on the fly. Long ago, we required fast food restaurants and food manufacturers to put a list of ingredients on the box and the calories, right? So I'm wondering if in the future at some point it makes sense for the manufacturers, say the iPhone, of actually listing out the ingredients of the iPhone and their sources to make it more measurable and not so much of a black box.
That's actually being discussed right now, and would be super useful. They call this product passports, you know? So for the whole theory behind the circular economy is also you have to think of the end of life of a product. You know, what actually happens when it's not functioning anymore. And recyclers, they need to know what's in a product to make the recycling process, for example, more efficient. So what you're saying there, Tim, is very, very important.
So, Marvin, you talked a little bit about some of the misconceptions, the difficult concepts for people to grasp onto and to make it concrete. With those issues in mind, what's the flip side of the argument? How can some of those challenges be addressed, and why does it matter?
Yeah, so, I mean, being on this kind of podcast to make people a bit more aware is, I guess, a first step. So we have to get out of this carbon tunnel vision. You know, we are facing a lot of challenges, global challenges that are not just related to greenhouse gas emissions. If you think about biodiversity loss, or if you think about indeed pollution, which is closely related to the circular economy, we just have to raise a bit more awareness on that. And what I mentioned earlier about the measurability, yeah, that's a big challenge. And currently you see some regulations coming up, especially in the European Union, that try to really provide more KPIs, key performance indicators and metrics, and try to standardize and harmonize ways to assess basically circularity. And that's what we need. But it is very challenging, and also, yeah, it changes all the time, this field. So
right.
Yeah.
And how does that then connect and dovetail specifically with the work that you do? How does that connect with your mission?
Yeah, so for example, I'm also leading our Circular Economy Indicator Coalition, where we work together with a lot of large companies, like basically all the big electronic equipment producers you can think of, be it Dell or Apple or, and we try to engage with these businesses to understand what they want and can measure, right? So you've maybe seen on Apple's website that they are using a lot of recycled aluminum for their products. These are the kind of KPIs and indicators that can help to really assess the circularity. And in this coalition, we engage with not just businesses, also with governments, and also with, for example, financial market participants. We try to really understand what they already know and how we can help them to get there. How can we help them to select the right indicators? Because there's also a lot of indicators that do not say much.
So I was reading one of the articles, kind of getting ready for our conversation, about a company years back that tried working in this concept of circularity into their business model. Carpet company turned to leasing and renting carpets that would include the servicing, the shampoo, the vacuuming, and then go reclaim the carpet when it reached end of life. And after, I think it said 6 or 7 years, they only had a couple of leases, and they really couldn't sustain the business model because customers looked at the maintenance of their carpets, especially in commercial, as part of their janitorial services, and they couldn't justify the costs. So I'm wondering if that economic growth and the economic viability of the model is are they mutually exclusive, economic growth versus circularity, or can they coexist?
They can definitely coexist, and there's actually a lot of. I think the business model that you were just explaining is part of this product as a service business models, as we call them. And you can see, for example, a lot of car sharing companies. That's a good example where you already see that they are financially viable and they are actually making a profit. But there's much more. In the Netherlands, you can really you can basically use everything as a service. It could be a washing machine where you basically just pay for how often you wash instead of having to buy the washing machine or a drill and so on. So no, circularity can really make business sense, and especially if you also look at the current global supply risks that you're facing, right? So we've seen now with the war in Ukraine and with last year shortage in wood supplies and all that, you see that there is actually linear risks. So the opposite of the circular economy is the linear economy, what we're living in. That if you are not, if you cannot make sure that basically your supplies are coming, then you're facing a linear risk. If you're able to really close the loop, imagine you take back your own, smartphones, and you recycle the aluminum yourself. There is little or less risk in your supply because you can make use of your own resources. So it's not just there's not just pull factors basically towards circular business models like the product as a service, but there's also push factors. There's really linear risks that businesses can face currently. Though, of course, can economic growth and circularity work together? You also have to question whether economic growth, of course, is the overall goal you want to achieve, right? So that's another discussion, I guess.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. We'll do a part 2 on viability of capitalism, for sure. So just a way of getting a bit of insight maybe into the circle economy, if I have the distinction right, Marvin. You recently released your yearly report on circularity. I wonder if you could share some maybe of the highlights from your study.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we released a lot of studies actually, and I think the most famous output is our circularity gap report, where we basically assess the state of circularity of our world. So that's 8.6%. What does that exactly mean? That basically means that of all the stuff we are making globally, only 8.6% of the materials that are being used to make that stuff are a non-virgin material, so
Right.
recycled
Wow.
material, to put it simple, which is little.
Yeah.
And yeah, in this kind of reports, we also do them for governments, so for countries. We've done them for the Netherlands recently, for the UK, Norway, for a lot of European countries at the moment. Actually, for Canada, for Quebec, we did it. So we also assess that on a national level. But yeah, what we want to show is that there's too many virgin materials being extracted, and currently there's 70% more virgin materials being extracted than the Earth can safely replenish. So we take stuff out too quickly before the Earth can actually kind of rebuild it. And yeah, what we can also, what we want to show is also the potential to achieve climate goals like greenhouse gas emission reductions, because in the end, 70% of all global greenhouse gas emissions are also related to material handling and use. You know, so if you are smarter with that, then you can also achieve the climate goals, basically.
So Marvin, Tom and I being in an IT industry, a lot of the conversations we have, we tie back to IT, and we've been working with a lot of customers lately over the last year or two on their green IT initiatives. We're seeing a pretty widespread adoption of at least the KPIs. They want to be able to measure it. You know, tying it back to financials is another thing, but they want to be able to measure and demonstrate where they are, kind of on a scale. But I'm curious, how central do you see that pursuit of green IT specifically, the technology component of green, to the overall business becoming more circular in nature? How big a part does IT play in the bigger picture?
IT can play and should play an important role. I think it's very crucial. I mean, especially like in, for example, tracking the materials. Maybe relates to what I said earlier about the product passports. That's where IT can play a large role. But you also see that, for example, now there's a new regulations coming up in the European Union where companies have to report also on their circularity, so what materials they're using, and they will be digitally tagged. So investors and other companies can very easily find via this digital tags and compare basically how well companies are performing. So IT has to play a big role. Currently, it is not utilized enough, I would say. And the KPIs, I think that's what you also said, that are currently being used for businesses, they are not saying too much. But it's also because it's such a complex topic. And yeah.
I'm curious what you think about the concept, and it came up on one of our other podcasts on green initiatives, the concept of digital waste or digital garbage, the theory being, and maybe it's not theory, maybe it's a reality, the more emails in your inbox, the more documents you save, the more hard drive space you take up, which is physical assets that are required to both build and purchase as well as retire. What are your thoughts about that digital waste as contributing to the overall picture?
Yeah, I think it's getting more attention, and for good reasons. I mean, if I look at my mailbox, there's like 30,000 mails easily in there, which have definitely no use at all. And we know, of course, that those mails, they're not on my, like, physically stored on my laptop. They're on some kind of cloud server, and that is again in a server building somewhere in the outskirts of Amsterdam, maybe. And there, physically, you will need a hard drive, you know. And if you just add up 7 billion people having that kind of mails sitting somewhere, that again leads to a very circular economy related topic, to the fact that you will need, I don't know, cobalt, you will need copper to actually make this hard drives where this digital waste is being stored upon. So yes, I think it's important that we talk about this, especially also because it will never get less, right? We communicate But every day I receive more WhatsApp messages and more mails, right? And we tend to not delete them. So yeah, I think it's an important topic.
Yeah. Cool.
Thinking about technology in general, Marvin, I mean, what are your thoughts on the paradox where, the Industrial Revolution onwards has purportedly caused this huge disruption in nature, and now so many people look to the same force, the force of technology, to try and ameliorate that impact? I mean, do you think that is a viable sort of approach, or is there a contradiction here that could do with being ironed out a bit?
I think it's a bit of both. So on the one side, I think we definitely need the innovation. We need technological innovation to be more efficient, and it adds a lot of value to our lives and to our happiness maybe. But what I often encounter is that people also see it as the solution, that there's kind of this this savior of technological innovation coming that will solve all the problems. And I think that's a bit naive. So we have to be careful with that. And often, unfortunately, the technology that's being developed is just in the end to create more stuff. And that's not really helpful in the bigger scheme of things. What it should be doing is, of course, make us happier people and maybe make the environment more healthy. So, I think you have to be always a bit critical about that kind of approach.
Okay. Which I think you've just spelled out my next question, which is about what the kind of key guides should be for future technological development, or is there anything you might add to that?
Oh, I think it's important that we always question: does it actually add value to our society and to the environment, and does it actually make us thrive? Because if you see some technological developments where planned obsolescence, like the products are actually made to break down and that kind of stuff, that makes me a bit sad. And I think we should reevaluate our values and not forget about them when we look into technological developments.
Well said. And so, last question for you, Marvin, regarding my 1970s playlist. Anything you direct me to? I do already have the German band Can featuring quite heavily. I've got a lot of Can in there at the moment.
Really? I mean, the Vitamin C song, I hope you have in there.
Oh yes, of course.
Yes, of course.
They take up quite a lot of space, of course. You put on, speaking about stored on a hard drive somewhere is Can's digital oeuvre. Each song is about 12 minutes long. So now I'm thinking differently about the the viability of that. But anything I should add, Marvin, before we let you go?
Maybe Supertramp, logical song.
Supertramp, love
Lou
it.
Reed. Lou Reed.
What was the second one? Sorry.
Lou Reed.
Oh yeah, I got Lou.
I mean, I'm a big Pink Floyd fan, but talking about the 70s, maybe you also want to look into the Limits to Growth report from 1972, because that kind of that got a discussion going. So
doesn't sound like an album, Marvin, but
not yet.
I'll search for it on Spotify. We'll see what it turns up. Well, listen, real pleasure to have you on the show. We really enjoyed hearing about the circular economy. I think it was a great discussion, and we often revisit these themes. It would be lovely to have you on again, perhaps in 2023, which, believe it or not, is breathing down our necks. Marvin, it's great to meet you. Great to talk to you. See you again.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Marvin.
Thank you.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how NextThink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nextthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.